welcome once again to Foxfire Farmhouse. We are glad that you have joined us for the podcast about all things storytelling and digital media.
Digital media.
We are going to stretch the limits of that and try to show you that this isn't actually a stretch today.
Yeah.
Talking about music.
Music.
So we're going to get to that here in just a little bit.
Oh yeah.
You've listened to music for a long time, right?
Very long time.
Yeah.
Since
You're an
I was a
avid
wee
music
bab.
guy.
I love music.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know much about music theory. I will put that out there first
Yeah.
for those music theory people. I took a course on it that I failed, and because I just didn't put the effort in.
Yeah.
But it was a really cool looking course.
Nice.
The book was really cool.
That's awesome. Hey, as long as the book was cool, that means that whatever you got out of it was probably legit.
It was
Yeah.
very legit.
Always judge a book by its cover.
And it was a very nice cover.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And then open it and read it, and then judge it by what's inside.
No, the content was really good.
Nice.
From what I did read.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, I remember my first introduction to any kind of music theory was in junior high in a school choir.
Yeah.
And that was where it started for me. So and then I went on. I always loved music as a kid. Dug my grandparents' Southern gospel music at the time, and I wanted to be a bass singer.
Oh, snap.
And I acted like I was the best bass singer in the world for quite a while, and then realized I just wasn't. And yep, so
okay.
grew out of that.
We all want to be that cool bass singer, man.
Yep. Everyone wants to be, or they either want to be the cool bass or the high tenor.
Yeah.
No one wants to be just like a normal.
I like being the normal.
I don't know.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Although sometimes the normal people who want to be the lead are actually just like, they want to be the showboat, the one that's like up there in front of everybody, gets all the solos, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not about that life.
The ego goes whichever direction we naturally have inclinations for.
Yes. Yep.
Wherever people will give us an applause,
Yeah.
we tend to want to shove.
That's where we want to be.
Yep, and that's why we are here on the Foxfire Farmhouse
Yes.
podcast, because of all of you millions of listeners who
Millions
are here
and millions.
tuning in.
In the future.
Yep, yeah, the future listeners. You have obviously discovered us on podcast 127.
Yes.
And now you're back here. Just couldn't get enough, and so
Yeah.
you rewound into the archives to episode 21.
I really hope that's I've done that with so many podcasts. I'm like, I love this podcast.
If that's you, comment below,
Please,
wherever
please.
that comment exists.
We
in
probably
120 episodes.
Won't read it because we won't be checking old
Yeah, because there
videos.
will be and because we'll get so many comments. There's no way we could possibly ever read all of them.
Yes, indeed.
So we hire other people to read our comments and give us the good ones. So you better write it to be really good, so that it gets past our screeners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have bots.
But you
And
can
people.
always try to reach out to us directly on Facebook or whatever the social media
Face to
platform
face,
is there.
you can find us.
The new Twitter from Elon Musk, whatever that becomes.
Is he making a new Twitter?
No, he's not making it. He just bought up enough
Oh,
shares
he bought it.
He bought up enough shares in the company that now he's a majority stakeholder, and
Didn't
is
he buy like
invited into a board
9% or
meeting.
something?
Yeah, he didn't have to buy much to actually. I mean, I'm sure that's millions and millions of dollars, but like he
Yeah.
didn't have to buy much percentage of the stock to actually get himself a place on the board. So
Good for him.
yeah, so we'll see what it becomes.
Yeah.
Anyway, but whatever the new thing is, comment there.
Yeah.
Reach out to us, find us, and we'd love to hear from you.
Drop us a line, as they
Yeah.
used to say.
If, though, you are actually on episode 21
Yeah.
and you're listening, we're glad you're here with us. It's people
Welcome.
like you who are building the brand.
The faithful few.
Yep. And before our egos take off
Yeah.
any further, we're going to get on into some things we're finding cool.
Cool things.
So
All right.
what's been cool? What have
know,
you been
man.
finding awesome?
A lot of really cool things. I'm going to break it down.
Okay.
There's a couple.
So you do one, I'll do one, and then you
we'll-
finish
we'll
up with
ping
however
pong.
many you got. Yeah.
All right.
'Cause,
I'll open off with, I just watched Genius, which
Genius?
it's on Netflix. It's the Kanye
Okay.
documentary.
Oh, nice.
It's 3 parts. It's made by Cootie. That's his name. And it's
His given name or his stage?
that
name?
is his nickname.
Okay,
Like that's just kind of what everyone calls him. But it's really, really well made. Like he does it off of film, and he also does it off of so basically what it is it's from the beginning of Kanye. Cootie's kind of been following him, and that's like back before his first album ever came out, and he was just a producer. And he's like, this guy's going somewhere, and I'm just gonna follow him. I'm gonna see where he goes. I'm gonna follow him to New York, and I'm gonna start filming him everywhere he goes. And
No
so
way,
he becomes a part of
really?
his entourage. Yeah. And so you get to see him. The first 2 episodes almost exclusively are just him trying to get this first album out and being recognized as a rapper. And man, he is just fighting for it. Like, it's crazy. And then as you go along, the technology gets better, and he gets a DSLR and all this stuff, but he always comes back to film, and the film is just really well done. And the editing is just really well put together too. It's very thematic. And you don't really like, it's got more of that avant-garde, like kind of like him riding on a train. Like, you can tell he's just taking stock everywhere he went.
Okay,
And so he
that's
just filled
cool.
it in. But anyway, it was really cool because you get to see this rise and this fight for him to get to fame. And then he gets it, and he gets so much of it. And you get to see him plummet into just this spiral of kind of what happens when you hit that rock star lifestyle, and he becomes like this actor. And then you get to just see him go down, and he leaves Cootie, and like, he's like, doesn't let him into his life anymore. And then towards the end, he brings him in, and you get to see him kind of now when he's making his Jesus is King album. And when he's starting to make this Christian music, he kind of brings Cootie back in, and Cootie gets to see kind of who he is now. And he's definitely very broken and has been brought so low, just by the world and all of the troubles that it's caused for his body and his family and his life. And it's just a really cool biopic, but it's long, but I
awesome.
felt like it was worth it because it gave me a lot of respect for Kanye and the filmmaker. It's just a really cool story.
Yeah. Don't get any ideas, folks. Elijah doesn't really want you following him around with a camera, even though you know that by episode 120, he's going to be just blowing it up. You know, who knows what he'll be doing at that point.
Concerts,
premiering movies, things like that.
Exactly.
His entourage is already pretty full, so you probably should.
Taken.
Yeah. So just stay away from him, but at a distance, record stuff online, save YouTube clips, and make your own little mini doc.
A little found footage kind of little deal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That'll
How about
be
you?
fun to watch. So I have been finding blockchain technology to be cool.
What's blockchain?
So I don't exactly understand it entirely well enough to be able to explain it, but it is the technology that underlies Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and is increasingly growing to underlie a lot of other network technologies.
Yeah.
So if you hear people talk about Web 3.0, or you hear them talk about the next generation, or like the metaverse, things like that. Like the technology of blockchain is what a lot of this stuff is being built on.
Fundamental.
So my introduction to it, I guess, came a couple years ago. I did a video project for a company that was building a software project on blockchain. And so I had to learn about it then. And then I read a book called Life After Google by George Gilder, in which he talks a lot about blockchain technology and Bitcoin, and how he doesn't think Bitcoin's going to last, which I don't know that that's actually accurate. But what he does see is that blockchain technology is the best thing to come out of all of this, because it's because of the way the network works. It's a public ledger of transactions, that whatever that transaction happens, whether it's the exchanging of goods, of currency, whatever it is, it's public. It's not hidden behind privacy walls in each company at their server. It's more secure. It's less hackable. So it just opens up because of you. Actually, Gilder wrote another book called Knowledge and Power, in which he kind of articulated the information of theory of technology as it applies to economics. And that's a complicated, all of his books are more complicated than I could even like remotely package into a small paragraph. But one of the things I took away from was that what he talked about was the signal to noise ratio in an information system is essential to the communication, so that like here, if you were listening to this podcast and it was fuzzy and staticky, and let's say we had a fan blowing in here to keep us cool, and it's like blowing on the microphones, and then I edit it poorly, and so by the end of the thing, there's so much noise in the podcast that you're not able to get much out of it, because you can't understand what we're saying. So that kind of form of communication, let's say like Morse code, or a static radio that didn't have good communication, can only be used to communicate a certain type of information. You don't use Morse code to convey a doctoral thesis, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not what you use it for because it's not efficient for that means of communication. So when the noise is low, the signal can be super varied. So you want a super static and stable noise floor. And then because of that, all of a sudden the opportunity for information flow and the surprise of new information can happen. And that's and so he used it to apply to the economy, that when we don't push the economy down by a bunch of regulation and a bunch of governmental interference, then you've got no noise. And then you can have a surprise amount of information that comes out of it, and innovation begins to happen and things go forward. So that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
So I think that what blockchain is, though, because so I've got a new job. I work for a company that's building their systems on blockchain. And so I'm starting to learn more about it. And it just is that kind of thing that creates a stable base. So there's not as much noise. And some of the things that are happening in that space are really cool. And I think that we are only just beginning to see kind of what kind of surprise information comes out of it. Yeah. But I think, so that's why I'm excited about it. That's why I think it's cool, is because it lowers the noise threshold. And when the noise threshold is low, then innovation is going to blossom. And I'm excited to see what comes from it. So
that's so cool.
That's
a world I don't know about at all.
Yeah, I just spoke about everything I know about it. So
there you go.
There we go.
Well, that's legit.
That's what I'm finding cool this week.
That is very cool.
Yes.
And my mind is still like still processing it.
Yeah. So you had other cool stuff though. What was
other cool things?
Being packed with cool stuff.
Just packed with cool things. Trip Lee. I'm a big fan of Christian rap, and we'll get into what that means. But Christian rap, man, it's so good. Some of it's really good. Some of it's not. But there's some really good stuff put out by Trip Lee and a group called 116. It's like an entity of Christian rappers, and they're all really pretty solid, at least in the past, and some of them have gone in a little different directions, but really solid theologically, and just amazing with the beats, amazing with just the flow that they have. And so Trip Lee just released The End is his new album, and it's really good. So I would recommend to anybody who's curious about Christian rap to dig into that one, because it's really good. And if you want any more recommendations, I have plenty. Sweet. And we'll get into, there'll be so many recommendations in this episode.
Awesome. Let's jump into it then.
Yeah.
And now our feature presentation.
Are you ready for this?
Let's do it.
Okay. Man. So we're going to talk about Christian music. We're going to talk about music in general.
Awesome.
And I think that's a very good place to start.
So what first, I guess, got you interested in music? I guess, what's your first memorable musical experience? Can you pinpoint that, or?
Oh man. Yeah. I've always grown up listening and singing and having singing going on in my house, not necessarily like professionally. We didn't have family singers or anything like that, but we just always sing, doing the dishes, doing whatever we're doing. So like, it's just something that we do. And my parents loved 80s music, and I listened to a lot of 80s music growing up, and just a lot of, like, I wouldn't even say it's like one thing. My parents just had a very wide amount of music that they listened to, like every genre. Like, I would listen to country, I listened to alternative, I listened to rock, a little bit of metal, a little bit of just everything, a little bit of Christian music. And it was really cool growing up with all that kind of music. That's why I have such a large base of music knowledge, is because of my parents and all the music that we listened to in the car, and the CDs, stacks and stacks of CDs that they had, MP3s. My dad had like almost every song in the world at one point. And so like I could listen to really anything. It was kind of like an open bookshelf of just being able to grab and just like not read, but listen to kind of most everything that I wanted to listen to.
That's awesome. So that's a very different experience than today. So in one sense, we have all that music at our fingertips through Spotify or Apple Music or whatever subscription service someone would use. Mm-hmm. Yet it's so hard to know what to look for.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're looking through a stack of CDs that someone has already curated and they've already collected, then you actually have, okay, well, I'm going to stick this in. This looks interesting.
Yeah.
Instead of, hey, here's what the algorithm is pumping you that they think you might like, that maybe it doesn't allow for that surprise of like scanning through a CD rack.
Exactly. And it doesn't, and just the reality of that too is like, I've been trying to listen to like albums in their entirety. Like, because it gets really easy to just go single.
Yeah.
And then you don't really know who the artist is. You're like, oh, I really like that artist. I mean, do you though? Do you really like that artist? Like, do you know what they come out with like regularly, or do you just like their like best hit?
Yeah, right.
And like, and I can say that there's a lot of artists that I really do like that have a deep repertoire, and I could tell you when and like where their periods of good music were and where they weren't, and like that kind of thing. And it's helpful to know who you're listening to. And it helps you appreciate the music more.
So when we started the podcast, we had an episode that was what is Christian film, because Christian or faith-based seems to be kind of labeled as a genre of movie. Yeah. And there is a real similar parallel in the music industry where you've got Christian music, and then and Christian music is not just a descriptor of the type of music. It actually is like a genre. Yeah. And so what's going on there? Like,
so this is the crazy jumbled mess of like, what is a Christian music? I would say that Christian music on the whole has been done much better, just for what it is, better than film has been done by Christian, like in terms of like the Christian, what you think of a Christian film. I think people have a better idea and more respect for when you say I listen to Christian music. They can find something that they've listened to that they have respect for. Like I Can Only Imagine is a song that like everybody's listened to, and most people respect that song, and just in terms of its quality and its message and everything that comes with it. But I think what defines Christian music and in terms of like when we come at it, and one of the reasons why we're so good at it is because music is a gift from the Lord. Like it's one of those things that is heavenly, that literally we've learned because that's something that's in heaven. Like angels sing, but like there's so many different places where, I mean, we read Psalms, and Psalms are songs, and it weaves poetry. I had a little definition, which is a vocal or instrumental sounds combined to produce beauty in form, harmony, and expressed emotion. And so like that's kind of hits kind of what music is. And just it's once again, it's a very visceral media. It impacts you very quickly because songs aren't 2 hours long. Songs aren't the length of a book, but somehow with what they are, they punch at you like within 3 minutes. They can change your life in 3 minutes. Yeah. And just for what they are. And like I was telling you earlier, watch that Jesus Music documentary. Really, really well done documentary for those who want to listen to it. And that was something that Michael W. Smith said. Like he was like, it's something that you can, like, I've had so many people come and talk to me and say 3 minutes changed my life. Yeah. Because it compresses all of those things. It compresses the lyrics and the truth with something that hits you in a very visceral and kind of transcendent spot.
Absolutely.
But
it has a more direct route to the soul than things that only go through the mind. So those things that like work their way through your mind that you consciously, or it seems to me that the things that I've like mulled over for a long time, have thought a lot about, given some serious thought and attention to, those are the things that then feed the rest of my life and are maybe more solid, right? Like I can be whisked away with the emotion of a song one moment and then it's gone the next. Yeah. But a textbook or a theological treatise doesn't impact me with that same kind of visceral impact. Yeah. That a song can impact me with. Like I'm more moved by "It Is Well With My Soul" than I am by like someone just
Calvin's
telling me that truth. Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, so it's not that Calvin's institutes can't be moving. Yes. It's just pound per pound, like the move and the time that happens is, like you're saying, so compressed into within 4 minutes, I'm in tears. Yeah. Whereas, Calvin's institutes, I mean, maybe in 4 minutes you're in tears for other reasons.
Yeah.
But you know, it's very visceral.
Yeah, I think it's just because it has a role. Like it has a role in our lives in terms of music and song, and I think you can see like very repressed communities when there's no music. Like music also represents joy, or like it's very emotional. It's a very emotional thing, and that's why there's a lot of safeguards in a lot of communities towards music, because it's a very emotion based thing, and so. Yeah, so like in terms of like reading, like the example you came up with, like with Calvin's Institutes and It Is Well With My Soul, it's good to have that to be building on the Institutes, but you can't subsist off of like just listening to It Is Well With My Soul, just kind of in the same way that you can't subsist off of like catechisms. Yeah. Like catechism, like it's a very like music and in its form is a catechizing thing. And
yeah, absolutely.
And that's a point that I think we'll get into as we get into more of the categories. But
I think too, because music is a part of culture, that there's that validating sense that, and we talk about this all the time with movies and stories in general, is that when you believe something. So when we think of the word culture, you have as a root cult and cultivate. Yeah. Like this is all related. And so as some have said, I forget who said it first, but it's just a reality. So it's not, maybe not really a quote, is that like culture is downstream from cult. So what you believe is going to show up in your culture that you build. Yeah. And so if you have a place with no music, then you really have a belief that without joy, or if you have a place that is built on music, and that's what fuels everything, then you've got a culture built on emotion. Yeah. Or, you know, like, so it's
and you're
not
kind of tossed here and there. Yeah.
Right. So that if you're afraid of music, then it really means there's something upstream that's probably messed up.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You have to have the upstream. Like if I didn't have the upstream, It Is Well With My Soul wouldn't hit me.
No, it would
because
just be
there's no truth
I'd really
to it.
dry him as most people think of it. Like they're like, I hear the organ, I hear the piano or whatever, and you're just.
Whereas there are some modern songs that like because I'm used to, or that kind of rhythm hits me and it's a part of my culture, and then like you can get me drummed up and I'm like, I don't even know what the song is about, but man, this is good. You know, like,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's just that's just a part of it. It's just the fact that like it's woven into the kind of our fabric in terms of being humans, just to be able to express emotion in music. Like it's a really beautiful thing. And it's also like they brought up the point that it's something that kind of even transcends language in a way. Just the fact that you can listen to a symphony made by a Russian, even opera, like all these different things, or just music put out in Mexico, has a profound effect on you if you listen to it.
Absolutely.
Like, so I think we can probably break into some of those categories and maybe make a more well-defined, like, well, what is Christian music? And I think the framework that we kind of broke down with the last, what is Christian film, is a good framework to kind of go through it and break down these categories and kind of figure out, well, where it kind of lines up.
Okay. So then with that one, we had basically that a Christian film, when people say Christian film, they're speaking of one of probably three things, and most likely more than one. One of them being it's a film that's marketed to Christians. Another one being it's a film made by Christians. And a third category was it's a film that's about Christianity or Christians in some way, whether it was made by a Christian or unbeliever or what the take was. So is that then how you would kind of see music as falling into those broad categories?
Yeah, I would definitely see music that like I curate, and there's always those like outliers that you're like, I don't know why I listened to that, but
absolutely.
Like in terms of like intentional like listening and being like, oh, like I really want to listen to something right now. Like it's usually about those categories. It's like that idea of like just finding. I want music that's true. I want music that isn't lying, and that's my biggest frustration with like up here we have 105.3 is like our 105.3, and then 104.5 you have K-Love, you have all these radio stations, And largely they play worship music, and they play very poppy things. But for me, I think Christian music is something that like has like a punch of truth in it. And so you get music that kind of has like no teeth in terms of the fact that it could be singing about a boyfriend or a girlfriend or the Lord or whatever.
Yeah,
That's one of my biggest gripes in Christian music. At least when it's kind of on the radio, like it has its place. You can listen to that music. That's fine.
Sure.
It's not bad. Cause there's some music in there that's really good. And that, I think that a lot of that is music that is produced for Christians. It's not necessarily like, communicating huge evangelical truths, but it's marketed because it is a market. It's a very profitable market.
Yeah,
it's
right.
much more so than like, the film industry. That's not very high profit, but like here, there's a lot of money because it's very closely tied to country music, very closely tied to hip hop. And so it kind of seeps off of those things. And, there's been a large boom, with it in the 90s. And then even until now, it's still very popular. We have multiple radio stations wherever you go that you can listen to Christian music. And so I think those songs are what would fit in the category of, produced for. And then you got produced by, which is like a larger category. And that requires you to look behind the scenes a little bit more and know who you're listening to. Cause they're in the, like, that was one cool thing about albums is that you could have their thanks.
Oh, almost sneezed. That was one of the things I would always go through with my, with the songs that I liked was to see is number one, do they have the lyrics in that, little pamphlet? What do they say about themselves in terms of the production? Like
there was always, do they thank the Lord?
There was always interesting stuff in there. What was their, what was their dedication? Things like that. Yeah.
There's some interesting artists that thank the Lord. And there's some interesting artists that have opinions on theological things that you wouldn't you wouldn't necessarily think and some, oh no, some of them,
it's the lady in the corner again. She's trying to claw her way out.
Like one of them that I liked listening to is, 21 Pilots. I like listening to 21 Pilots and they thank the Lord for their music. And, you can see even in their music, you can see tones that are not necessarily like that are at least attached to the culture that's post-Christian and attached to some of those ideas that are true because they want to talk about true things. Yeah. And if you're talking about true things, you're inevitably that comes into the realm of the Lord.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciate about artists and that ends up leading me to odd artists is that I enjoy when people are being honest, even if they're just being honest about their condition and their problems. Yeah. So like, I think that one of the reasons, for instance, that Taylor Swift is popular is that she is very honest and open about all of her love life and people give her a hard time about that. Yeah. But like, it's one of the things that makes her music actually endearing is that it is her maybe screaming at the void. Yeah. But like, it's authentic and honest, right? Like it's not posturing to an audience, which is where I feel like a lot of Christian music ends up being, is that they're just trying to cash in on the market instead of trying to make music. And then 21 Pilots, they are just super honest about like mental illness and their struggles. And like they helped me through a really tough time actually one year where I was financially, anyway, there's a long story, but like I was working at a beef jerky outlet, right? Yeah. And like, here I am, a grown man and having to take a second job working at a beef jerky outlet, selling beef jerky in order to like just take care of my family. And I felt like life sucked. Yeah. And like that music gave voice to a lot of my frustrations and really helped me through, so it wasn't that they were telling me anything like incredibly encouraging as much as it was like they are putting words to my struggles. Yeah. And it was, and that was true. That it resonated deeply with me. Yeah.
It's nice to kind of have, like, we're not to be like affirmation crazy, but it's nice to be affirmed and go, I'm not alone. Like, it's another way of knowing that you're not alone, that there's somebody else who is feeling downtrodden, who's not feeling up on it. And that's why I really don't like listening to Christian radio all the time, is because I don't want to hear your hippity scott. Like you're just like, oh yeah, the Lord is good.
Yeah.
Like I want to hear a Christian who's weeping, because I'm weeping right now, and I don't want to listen to somebody who's just clapping about the Lord bringing trials and they're all smiling and dancing hip hop routines to it. That has no depth to the place that I'm in right now. And so that's where I get frustrated, because it doesn't always fall in line with where I'm at. The good news for you, though, is that there are so many Christian artists out there that don't get played on Christian radio that are producing music.
Yeah, right.
Like it's kind of like a renaissance right now. There's so many good Christian artists out right now. And all of them, and that's a part of like when you get to know an artist too, is like even the artists that are being played, like your Casting Crowns, your Mercy Me's, like these big names, Chris Tomlin, like these are big names. If you actually listen to more than what's on the radio, like I would encourage everybody to just listen to more than what's on the radio.
Find their album and listen to the whole thing. Yeah.
They also have songs that are not just the happy skippity songs, which I understand a radio station, you're not going to play like depressing music all day. Right. But like when I just don't want that to be what everyone thinks Christian music is, is just the Spirit 105.3, encouraging, helpful, like all. And what's also encouraging is hearing somebody just crying about the trial.
Absolutely.
Like, and that's why I really appreciate music made by Christians and made for other Christians. And most of the time it's just made because they're singing songs just like David. And it's a song that they made almost for themselves and them between the Lord, and they decided to produce it and release it to people like Mercy Me and like all of these big names that are actually some of the best like Titans in the game. Is just like most of their best songs are because of those trials that they're going through. Yeah,
right. Exactly.
But
I think so. I want to take a detour here for a second. I don't know. But just to talk about Christians' perception of music. So I grew up in a niche culture of music. Like I did not listen to almost anything that was made by non-Christians.
Did you listen to DC Talk?
No.
Oh, snap.
I listened to like nothing. I'm like, my extent of broadening my horizons in music was anything Southern gospel. Like that was the edgiest we possibly got.
Do you listen to country music?
No, we did not.
Just Southern gospel.
Southern gospel and hymns, and that was about the extent of it. And I mean, my family did not believe this, but we knew multiple people who believed that like music with drums was ungodly. Yeah. And that consequently you shouldn't even listen to it. It's not just the question of what's appropriate in church. It was like across the board. So I mean, I didn't have a very broad musical horizon growing up. And I think there's a lot of fear about music because you look at, so it was a false equivalence. Yeah. But like our people would look at other churches and see, okay, you've got a mega church that's blowing up. Yeah. And they are turning away from fundamental truths of Christianity in order to attract a crowd. And so one of the tools that they end up using is music to get there. Yeah. And so I think we made the wrong assumption about what was actually wrong in that situation. Yeah. And we began to assume that music is
the drum's fault.
Right. Yeah, exactly. People are wicked because they heard drums. It's like, no. People are wicked because they have wicked hearts. Yeah. And we are tempted to use music because it is powerful and because it actually does something in our hearts. Instead of saying that work is okay, let's just not use it for those things. In other words, like back in the day, so rock culture of the 60s and 70s and before was probably genuinely evil, right? Like that there's a lot of culture around it that was like sex, drugs, rock and roll type, this is what we do with rock and roll. Does that mean that rock and roll music is bad? Well, not necessarily. Yeah. Because the culture surrounding it was bad. If you definitely don't be a part of that culture. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that there's nothing redeemable in the music itself. And so I think that's what happened is we ended up throwing baby out with the bathwater just because we were afraid that taking on more contemporary music styles were going to cause us to go down the ditch of other people. But the truth is that we were squarely on the other side of the ship, and we hadn't, like, that was not a immediate danger to us. So I just want to, I guess, bring that up and say that music is a gift from God, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
And just because people have used it for ill does not mean that it's the kind of thing you should throw out entirely. I think there is definitely but it goes back to what's this music for? So I think there's a type of music that probably wouldn't be appropriate in church,
Exactly.
but not because the music isn't appropriate, but because there is something specific we're trying to do at church that governs what music we use.
Yeah, it's the purpose. Like, I personally, I love singing hymns. One of the big reasons why I like it is because of, obviously, the content is theologically rich. But what I love about it is because it's made for the congregation to sing, for everybody to fit in and to feel like they can sing. Not everybody can sing like Chris Tomlin.
Yeah,
When you're singing Chris Tomlin, and it turns into just hearing the lead singer sing and to listening to a band, like, and that like you're saying, that's not the purpose. The purpose is to be gathering together, to hear the saints singing together, and to be feeling like I am with the saints right now across the earth, and even among those in heaven, we are singing together towards the Lord. Like that's the idea. And so I would wholeheartedly agree, as long as that is your intention and that's effectively happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, because I grew up in, like, this is the first church I ever came to that just sang hymns. Like all the churches I grew up in had drums, had a band, maybe even produced CDs. Like that was kind of the culture I grew up in the emergent church.
And I think that there's a place where that would be. That's
and
a
the Lord
helpful
uses
part
it.
of a culture of a church. I don't know that I would say it's a healthy part of a worship culture of the church, the public worship of the church. So I would love to see more music, more instruments being incorporated into our worship.
Exactly.
But in terms of like,
Yeah,
do we
it's like,
do we need a worship band? Do we need, like, okay, well, I don't know how. But that's a pastoral question in terms of like, what are we going to do?
and all that. Yeah. But that kind of like touches on that great CCM debate that everybody had.
Oh boy,
everybody had an opinion on. But
I think most people just miss the fact that most CCM was garbage.
That's not true though. There's so much good CCM.
But do you not think that most of it was garbage?
I think there was a good amount of garbage.
Okay, I was going to say most of what I heard
Yeah.
sounded like garbage.
So there is actually.
I'm not saying that there wasn't good somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But just that there was such a
there was a large swath of people.
It was a saturated market.
Yeah, there was definitely. I think when you hit the 90s, there's a lot of artists. I think there's artists that have stuck, and those are the ones that you can go back and go, yeah, they've always made good music, and you can go back and look at their 90s stuff and go, yeah, they've been good. But yeah, I guess there are quite a bit of really good, like, and especially like right now. But there's also like you're saying, there's always those who are not putting out the greatest stuff.
Yeah.
At all times.
That's often because they're trying to cash in on the trend, which this is just markets. This is how any market works.
Yeah.
Is that you've got some, like, right. I mean, I talked about crypto, right? Like there are multiple exchanges and cryptocurrencies popping up everywhere. Everyone wants to get a piece of the pie.
You want to go to a market where there's less sound.
Yeah.
There's less noise.
Yeah, exactly. And right now there's a huge opportunity for people to do that.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
we're going to see in 10 years who was good, who wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's largely like, even with films, like you see the films that last, that have impact. And it's, I think that's always the good barometer is like, did what you listened to, did what you read, did what you watch, did it impact you the next day? Like, did you think about it?
Right.
Like,
exactly.
I think that's a great barometer, and go, man, I'm still thinking about that. Man, that's still stuck, like, not necessarily still stuck in my head, because that can be something annoying.
Yeah. but it still got me. Yeah.
It still got me thinking about its content, and not all of it's about, or the feeling that it gave me when I listened to it. Like, why
there's music that does that just I come back to, and I just like crank again and again and again.
Yeah.
And I'm still, and often it's like I don't understand what it's doing to me until about, listening to it for 50 times, right?
Yeah.
It takes a while for me to like try to put words to exactly why I like something.
That's what's good about music too, is a lot of times it's very simple. It doesn't necessarily need to be like lyrically rich in order for it to impact you. Like, it could be something simple that repeats quite often. But I do love lyrically rich songs.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know.
I think that there's a lot of room. musically what I would love to see,
Yeah.
and that I'm taking actions to make sure happen, are that I want to see more Christians have a culture of music, of the arts more broadly,
Yeah.
but of music especially, in our culture. So
Yeah.
I think music and dance, it's like I want to expand. I want to learn to dance. I want to expand my musical horizons. I'm already, now that I've got a lot of time on a computer when I'm doing my work, I can listen to music, and I've been trying to make it through some other stuff. So just recently playing like the best of Johnny Cash to try to expand my horizons into that country genre, more classic country. And, you know, so like stuff like that I just had never listened to so much of Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
And I just want to have listened to it and see what it was like.
Johnny Cash is amazing.
You know,
he's a great artist.
Recently did Pink Floyd, going through some of those, you know, just trying to expand.
Shot that already.
Yeah. Just trying to get those kinds of things like that. Because I want us to have, as Christians, a culture of music and music making that isn't that is the kind of culture that can pull out a guitar around a campfire or in a living room and just play and sing and enjoy making music together. Yeah. And that being a part of what we just do. Yeah. I would love to see more of that.
Yeah. And I think it's just a part of like growing that like underbrush, like just with like wanting to watch films. Like, you want to be a good filmmaker? Watch a lot of film.
Yeah.
You want to be a good writer? Read a lot of books. You want to be good at music? Listen to a lot of music. Like, and I think that if one of the things that's helpful is being able to listen more broadly, and to like have that kind of underpin, like if you're going to be creating something, and it helps you to create something that's more unique and more individual. Because if you're not really listening too much, and you'll listen to like one thing, you really want to sound like that one thing, where you're just kind of pigeonholed. Where like one of the things I thought was really cool is Spotify used to have where you could follow artists and you can see what they're listening to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
They got rid of that real quick.
That's awesome.
I would watch Chris Tomlin on the side.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And he's listening to like M83. He was listening to like all of these other artists that are not Christian artists. And you can see their impact in his music. He took really good things from them. Like you're listening to like Pink Floyd or Johnny Cash, and you listen to like all this music, and it impacts kind of what you can, like it builds up that imagination, that musical imagination of allowing you to see more things, to feel more things, to kind of pull out of that ammunition box to fire in terms of something what you're going to be producing. So like, it's always good to build up that repertoire and to use it and to do something with it.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
To actually put feet.
Friend of ours in the church who's just a gifted musician, and I'm pushing for him to do more with it. And he recently bought equipment, and I'm like, yes, come on, man, push. I just want to see.
I think it's who I
just
think
want
it
to
is,
see that kind of stuff happen, and I want to encourage digital media production on whatever scale I can. Whether that's encouraging someone. There's another friend of ours that I'm like, dude, you got to start a podcast. You got to start. I just want to push that people are making stuff, because, like we said, I really think we have the right belief, right? Like we have that down, and we're afraid that by going into music or going into film or going into the arts, that's going to somehow water down our belief, and that just is not true. Like, yes, these things can happen, but if that happens, it's because there's something upstream that's wrong, not the downstream.
Yeah, take care of your upstream, but also know that you can make things.
And we're a part, at least in our context, we're a part of a solid church, and I really think that out of that kind of thing can grow so much good if we're not afraid. But we can't be afraid of the medium. We can't be afraid of messing up, because, for goodness sakes, we're Christians. We believe in forgiveness and redemption. Yeah. So go out and like live for the glory of God and act like you've actually been redeemed by Jesus, and have faith that what he is doing in you is actually working, which means that if you go out and make music, you're going to make something good, right? That doesn't, the laws of excellence and diligence and all that apply. I'm not saying that like whatever you make is good. I'm just saying if you submit to the lordship of Jesus and you work hard, and God's actually gifted you in this area. You're not, someone who has never sung a song before and just decides, hey, I'm going to try to, write a symphony. Don't go do that. But if you've got, with the giftedness and skills you've got, use those for the glory of God, and you'll see that God blesses that in your community, in your family, and just your community will be blessed by it.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. We just really do need to be making more, and it's so true.
Go make music, people. Go make things.
Make things, please. Like
we need to sign off. Like, go make things. Go make
things.
Movies. Go make music.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. Just go do it. Yeah, it's awesome.
Just do it. That should be our podcast.
Just do it. Come on.
Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said today.
This has been your pep talk
There you
from
go.
Foxfire Farmhouse. We want you to make stuff. Send us a pep talk. We need a pep talk every once in a while. Send it to us.
Come on, man.
And recommend to us your favorite Christian artists, your
Hit it
favorite
up.
Christian albums. We'd love to hear from you.
Spider behind
There,
you.
I watched it march down here. Is it this wolf spider? Yep.
It looks kind of like a recluse, actually.
The seven-legged wolf spider, and it's attacking us. So since the spider has come out and is attacking us, it's about time that we quit. But if you have recommendations for music, you can send those to us at podcast@foxfirefarmhouse.com. We would love to hear from you. And really, honestly, thank you for listening. If you're listening to the very end and you're actually listening to us do our little outro thing, then you are a dedicated fan, and we are very, very grateful for you being a part of us. And Mom, Dad, I don't even know that my mom listens to this. but we're really thankful for you, and it's people like you who are going to make us rich and famous. So keep on keeping on.
Yeah, keep on doing it.